step as a task force with us measuring the needs of the community. So the survey is going to allow us to scan the community, measure the needs, and give us the data that we need to provide direction as a task force of where we need to go. And hopefully will allow us to take some action to improving the quality of life for our residents. So we did go back and make all of the changes to the survey that we discussed last week. And we did send it to communications earlier this week. We did receive it back just prior to the meeting, the draft. So Nicole's going to bring it up. And I haven't even had the opportunity to look at it. So we're going to do it as a team. We'll take a quick look, make sure we're all happy and satisfied. And if we get the green light, then we will go ahead and hopefully get this live tomorrow. So we did change that wording as recommended on number 1. How would you say your mental health and personal well-being was prior to the COVID-19 pandemic? And then we have the ratings of how concerned are you about the following impacts? The one thing that we did add in this was, and I can't remember if it was before we met or after, but increase in disagreements and conflict in my home. We separated that from violence because we felt that was two separate issues. And then we also added in the comment box that was recommended as well for some open-ended answers. This has all remained exactly the same, I believe. So measuring sense of belonging and where people reach out in their times of stress and need. Questions around technology. Do you feel that you have the mental health support you need? And are you aware of the mental health resources? It was recommended by this group to break that out into 2 separate areas. And then we go more into the financial questions. So job loss, financial situation, what will happen if things don't change, food security questions, housing questions. Question to help us look down the road a little bit. We want to make sure that we're capturing people's worries as they move forward into the pandemic. So how likely that you will need to move in the next 6 months, questioning whether people have had the ability to apply for financial relief services, outlook in the future. And then I also connected with Mike from the Economic Task Force, and we made sure to get a couple questions in that task force was interested in asking. So would you visit a business or organization that is not considered essential if they have good measures in place? And then Mike also added, how can the town of Cochrane help you feel safe when it comes to returning to non-essential shopping? So an open-ended question so people can provide feedback on what the town could be doing to make them feel a little bit safer venturing out into the world. One question that wasn't in that we did add in was, do you have ideas or suggestions on programs that could be offered to keep your spirits up during the COVID-19 pandemic? How do people feel about that one? That's a new question that you haven't seen, but we thought that might provide us with a little bit more direction on what people are looking for.
I think it's a great question.
Okay, so you're good with us leaving that one in? Got a couple of thumbs up, awesome. Top priorities for the Social Recovery Task Force. The FACE question about how you feel about the long-term future. What has changed for the better for you and what has changed for the worse since the COVID-19 pandemic. And then the last 2 are all the demographic questions. So everything that we talked about. Nothing additional has been added. Actually, I think we did even take out some household questions. We asked how many adults, and then we figured by doing some simple math, we could do that without having a question in there actually asking that. So we took out one of those just to try to eliminate the best we can. And then we changed the wording on the contact information as well. So we put our research on the social impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is continuing. If you would like to participate in further surveys or provide additional feedback, please provide your contact information. Yes.
Looks really good, Kim. The changes are all incorporated. The only question I'm struggling with is the one about what can the town of Cochrane do for the businesses? I don't know what Jeff thinks about it, but there isn't a lot we can tell the businesses they have to do. It's more the province and others that do. I'm wondering if there's a way to reword that one.
That one came directly from Mike. Jeff, do you have any feedback or input into that one?
And Susan, that's the one at the top of the screen now you're talking about? How can the town of Cochrane help you feel safe when it comes to shopping?
Right.
I actually really like that question. And the reason why I think Mike would have put that forward is one of the things we're seeing at the on the other task force is that it's really not the businesses that are, some of them aren't struggling with, how do I put this? It's not COVID that's really keeping them back as a barrier for being successful. It's the perception from residents in feeling safe in doing so. So that's really where that question's coming from. And we've heard through tourism that there's 48% of residents are okay with outside residents coming, like outside of town tourists visiting our community. So it's about making people feel safe. So I know Mike has ordered face masks that they're going to be distributing. Like, is it really, what is it that we can do? I don't, it might be municipal enforcement assist. It might be, there's a list of things, but that we identified that as one of the major things. And we're wondering what it would be. Like, what is it that will have residents feel safe in visiting local businesses?
Yeah, I can see the equipment and all those kind of things. It's just the rules that we can't do anything about, but a lot of people think that we are in charge.
Susan, would it read better or help, would it feel better if it said what would help you feel safe, and removing like the town as being the body that has the ability to change that?
Yeah, then if it was something health related, we could refer it to them, or if it was victim services related, we could, I don't know. What do others think?
I don't mind taking the town out of it doesn't change the intent. So if that makes you feel better, I think that's fine.
I would like it better. Would everybody okay with that?
So would it be what do you need to help you? What would help you?
Yeah, what would help you feel safe when it comes to returning to non-essential shopping?
I like it.
Yep, we can definitely make that change. And I think I'd also recommend that this question be on page 4, following the other question.
Sure.
Can you flip back to page 4, Nicole? Because it says, would you visit a business that's not considered essential? Rate that, and then what would help you feel safe? Okay. Perfect. Any other comments or anything on the survey?
I would just say, maybe as a quick update from the economic side, what has it been, a week now or so, week and a bit? We've had 109 businesses complete our survey. which I thought was pretty good. We've started to get feedback. Like, so our meeting was yesterday and we went through some of the early, feedback results that we're getting. And it's interesting. What I found, and I don't by any means, and I'm waving my hands a little bit, by no means am I saying that I think we should change the survey. I'm happy with what we've got here. But it was interesting to me from the economic side, we've come up with, I forget how many questions. We literally said yesterday, okay, question 8 and question 13 are the only 2 things that we can really do anything about right now. And I mean, that may change as we go, but it was, and I forget what 13 was like, what could the town do, similar to what the question we just talked about. But it was, and it was all about marketing our community more. And so that we really got a tangible thing. So it was exciting to be able to, we've got our marching orders now. So we have something to actually work on. So I'm excited to get this out. It's good. But I thought, 109 businesses came forward. Most people put their names on it too, about what businesses they were and how they could, I was surprised. I thought more people would be, wanting to just remain in the woodwork and not come out and say things, but people are really sharing their feelings and what we can do to help. So it was really good.
That's fantastic. How long has the survey been out, Jeff? Has it just been a week? Little bit, right?
Yeah, about 10 days maybe.
And how long are they leaving their survey open for?
Oh, I wrote that down. I think it was June 10th. That was 3 pages ago in my notes. Yeah, I think it's June 10th.
Okay, because that's something we'll need to determine as well. Our goal will be, we'll get these changes back to communications with hopefully the goal of getting it out tomorrow online. And we'll need to determine how long do we want to leave this open for. So we don't have to determine that necessarily today. We can see what the responses start coming back in, but
Kim, do they have a system where it's all going to be added automatically and input it into the computer?
yeah, we receive it back. Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in an Excel sheet. And then they will make it look pretty for us to actually be able to read it and it to be legible. They can put it into graphs and stuff. So
yeah, and what we've asked for from the economic side was, can you just give us the raw data as we go, like not in a pretty form, so we can actually do what we did yesterday and go, okay, we've had 109 results or completed surveys, but we have some kind of trends that are emerging that we can start to act on now. And if it's going to be marketing, we kind of need to act on that sooner than later. Than, if we're wait for 3 more weeks and then start planning and then, oh, we've missed it, right? We're not really helping people. So I would suggest that we do the same. We just get, and it's really cumbersome to go through, but it's better than nothing, right?
I did watch just a portion. I didn't get through the whole meeting, and I saw a little bit of the survey stuff because that's what I do in the evening. I wish I could tell you guys I had a life and was out doing fun things, but I watch council and I watch the Economic Social Task Force in my evenings. The survey results that were shown up on the screen, Jeff, those were the raw results because there were graphs and different things that were shown, right? That was provided by communications.
Yeah, but then we just get the Excel spreadsheet of everybody's data and what they answered, and it's like, right. It's a really big document, but it's hard to go through. But all the comments aren't like, we've asked Mike to work on collating some of that. So if somebody said they want a survey done, then there's 10 now people said survey, and there's been 28 people that said we need to market. And
right.
Then random things we just kind of push off to the side and we look at them. But what are the emerging items that people kind of, have in common? So it's looking good.
So we will shoot to have it out tomorrow, and we will try to bring some of the data back to our next meeting with those initial surveys that we've received.
So
So
Kim, when you say have it out, you were going to put it in the newspaper, weren't you?
yeah, so
that
yeah, I
was-
was going to move into that communication strategy piece and see, make sure people were still on board with that. So typically what happens is it would go out through all our regular social media kind of stuff. So it'll be on the town website. We have 3 or 4 different Facebook accounts. We'll send it out to all our distribution lists. And then we did talk about how do we reach those people that aren't on social media, aren't on Facebook, aren't watching. So the newspaper idea did come out. We have talked to communications, they can do it. Is that something that you guys feel is important that we want to proceed with? Yeah. So we can definitely move ahead. I also think it's a win-win having it in the newspaper. So we'll get those people that aren't on social media, but I think it's also going to be a great promotional way too, because hopefully people will flip through the paper, they'll read it. The questions are going to be so exciting for them that they want to weigh in, and then they'll either go online and complete it or complete it on paper as well. So we'll talk to communications with the goal of having that come out in the paper next week as well. What do people think about particular newspapers? Do we want to target both papers? What are people's thoughts around that?
I think we actually have a contract with the Eagle.
Okay,
So I think that decision's, I mean, pretty much been made for us. Like,
okay,
we have a flat rate discount to do that. So we're pretty much have to do it that way as per our policy. I think.
A lot of wasted paper to do both anyway, wouldn't it?
And are we like, what is it going to look like? Is the actual survey going to be in the paper, or is it a link to, or like a direct people's attention to a place that they can go fill it out?
we were going to do the actual survey. So seniors that weren't online, didn't have access to a computer, could tick the boxes manually with their pencil or their pen. And we were going to put our FCSS drop box. We have a hole in our door for a drop slot that people could drop their finished surveys off. So one of the concerns that we always have from FCSS and that social standpoint is reaching those people that don't necessarily have access to technology, aren't online, aren't necessarily savvy to do surveys that way. So this was our kick at the cat of trying to make it accessible to everybody.
Okay. I'm good with that. I think it's neat.
Perfect. And then we'll also send the link out to our task force membership as well, and ask that all of you share it as far and as wide as you can within Cochrane and the Western Rocky View County, of course, but send it to all your contacts, and we'll try to get as many people as we can completing this. Any other ideas for promotion that anybody has?
Just my article, Kim, for next week, if you could spend a little bit of time with me, either this afternoon or tomorrow, if you got time.
I had time at 3:30 today, Susan, if you want to talk.
Okay.
Actually, I had you on my list and I forgot to mention that. So I
Okay.
need your article. So yeah, we'll connect and do that.
And maybe doing just a media release up and sending it to Cochrane now as well. I know they're always looking for information and helping to promote.
Awesome. Is there anybody on the task force that would want to talk on the radio to do some promotion about the survey?
I'm sure the mayor would.
He looks really excited about it. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm happy to do it. I just didn't want to be if someone else is happy, I'm happy to step back. But
If you and Kim both did it, it would be awesome.
did you say Kim and I?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could just. be there.
Or if there's any other volunteers, I'm happy to step aside as well.
I like the 2 volunteers we have. We're good.
That was more of a voluntold.
Excellent. So yes, Jeff and I will connect with the media, and I'll get communications to put a media release out as well, which will go to both papers, the radio, about the survey too.
Why don't we get a call-in show in the afternoon and get people to give us their feedback on air?
Like during our meeting?
No, like
Oh.
go on the radio and have people call in. Kim,
Idea.
what are you going to do about this problem?
That would be great. So I'm busy that day.
The other person I think that would be really good to connect with is Deb from mental health, because there's a lot of mental health questions, and we're going to be questioned a lot too. I just thought it would be nice to somehow include her.
So Deb Demars, is that
Yeah,
who you're talking about?
or some, if you have a better connection, somebody from mental health.
For sure. Sorry, my brain was just trying to process last names and realize who you were talking about.
Hmm.
So-
Sorry.
Nope, that's great.
You said Deb, and I thought cinnamon bear. Like,
Oh. Cinnamon bear is good for your mental health as well.
I'm gonna mute now.
Any other ideas for promotion? Okay, we'll watch your inbox for a link to the survey. Hopefully we'll have that to you tomorrow.
Kim,
Oh.
Can I just add? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
what about that urban chat? Is that a platform as well for advertising? For her to just, is it the urban chat?
I'm not sure, Cindy. I don't know.
She
if I'm-
just picks up what's kind of out already on Facebook
Urban
That's
casual.
and what's
Yeah.
kind of already out there,
Okay,
I think.
So it's
But I-
not somebody we'd reach out to?
I've seen her interviewing people though.
right.
Probably would.
Yep.
So I thought maybe that might be a good, she could throw that in there before the interview or after as well. It seems to be reaching a lot of people.
Okay, and is that's an online?
Samantha Nickerson, Urban Casual.
Yeah.
Urban casual,
Okay.
sorry.
Marnie's connected in there too, right?
I think she was. I don't know if she is anymore.
Anymore. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We'll get it out there, you guys.
The only thing I would add, sorry, am I
Yeah.
cutting someone else off again?
Nope, go ahead.
When the Economic Recovery Task Force survey went out, I was, I don't know, I'll just say it. I was a little disappointed in how it was advertised in the paper or online. I think if you're talking to communications, could they do some kind of graphic to get someone's attention? Like to do a post on our town administration page that just says survey, and fill this out. It wasn't really too,
Okay.
it wasn't eye-catching enough from my point of view. I think they need some kind of graphic that draws people's attention to it to get more people to follow the link.
Yeah, no, we can definitely mention that when we talk to them.
One other avenue that we did for survey for the Tri-State Committee that was very helpful was putting those boards at the corner of Center and the 1A highway that says like, let's talk Cochrane with the survey information as well. We did that. And then we also did one, I think, on Fifth Avenue, right across from McDonald's as well. It does cost money. I can look up how much they cost and we can have a look at that. But people did say that they saw that information on there and went to the website to fill it out.
Well, and the digital signs, Nicole, would
Yeah.
be a really good way maybe to get.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know if we have time, but having something at the farmer's market and the movie theater, there's going to be a lot of people out on Saturday.
Yeah. You mean at the drive-in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's drive-in, sorry, yeah.
Oh,
They're going to be lined up to get in. They could read something.
that's true.
Are they going to be handing anything out at the movie, I wonder?
I don't know.
Not that I'm aware of. They're not planning to.
So Susan, what's your vision? Us standing, like giving people paper surveys to do while they're,
Or even just a sign saying this is available and check it out online. Just a thought. Maybe you don't have time for that.
let's see what we can do. And what was the other farmer's market?
They're both the same day, farmer's market and the movie theater. So if you had one sign, they're all,
Saturday.
yeah.
Yeah, even if there was a sign with a QR code or something that people could easily get to the survey link.
Or it could be flashing on the movie screen as well.
I think that ship has sailed because
Has it?
yeah, they were doing all the filming of all of that yesterday.
Oh, okay. But one of the things, like I'm wondering, could we get a table at the farmer's market? I don't think it'll work maybe for this weekend, but maybe next weekend. And we have a couple people from the task force actually there with paper or,
We'd have to find out from Val if it's allowed. I know that they can't sell jewelry or anything. It has to be food products. So I don't know what the rules are around touching paper.
right.
We also have 2 food drives scheduled for June, which if there is a sign, we could have it at the location where we're meeting.
It's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we can have the same graphic and mix it all kind of together and have that. That would be awesome.
Yeah. No, these are great ideas, you guys. And maybe what we do is let's see what our response is this first week. I'll look into the digital signs right away and see if we can get that up and running, get it online in the paper, and we'll kind of see where our numbers sit next Thursday. And if we need some added promotion, maybe we'll look at maybe the farmer's market or different ways we can actually get people face to face. Because sometimes a conversation, once people hear how great this is and the meaning behind it, I think they're going to want to participate. Pretty positive. So Jan wasn't able to join us today. Her grandson's having a porch graduation this afternoon. So she's watching her grandbaby graduate. But I did want to just provide a really quick update. As you know, she mentioned last week, she's been doing some research on town halls and what does that mean? And I agree with her. I think it's a really great idea to reach a whole bunch of people in a format that we've never tried before. So she will provide more of an update next week, I'm sure, but just wanted to let her know or let everyone know that she's reached out to Rebecca Friels with the town of Cochrane. Jeff, you brought her up last week saying that she was looking into some of this. So they've connected, they're talking, they're both quite excited. And Jan will be able to provide more updates next week on where they've landed, but I know her research is kind of ongoing there, so.
I can provide a bit of a background to that if you want.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And Jan probably will have way more information, but I did meet with on this topic yesterday with Rebecca and some internal administration about the costs and the benefits maybe. I know we were talking about perhaps partnering with the other task force or, piggybacking on and with other initiatives to maybe do some cost savings. So the short story is, I think Jan had talked about, and maybe here we talked about having our MLA or MP and help funding. Internally, we felt that might really be hard to manage with that many talking political people involved and each having their own agendas. And although it may be nice to have some assistance financially, really we're going to have to be quite specific in what we ask people and what we talk about. Otherwise we're going to be too broad, and we'll probably not get anything out of it as a task force. Short story is we think we could potentially partner with communications. We had done an engagement plan to do a Let's Talk barbecue for this year. That's obviously not happened. It was supposed to be, I think, right around now. And it was targeted to communicate out and engage the public on things the town is talking about, land use bylaw, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a budget there that perhaps we could utilize. I also think that we, as a task force, should be going to council and saying we need a bit of money to do some of these things, and that the $7,000 or $10,000 that this might cost, I think, is a good. This is my belief, a good use of funds and a good way to connect with people. So the short story, again, I keep saying short story and then going on for a long time, is that I think there's benefit here. I think the people that are able to help make it happen are excited about it, and that we would just need to start to formulate some kind of message that we want to procure from people. So I think if we follow through with our survey, we start to get some themes. We may have a couple of initiatives that we start to target and we want more information on, and maybe that's where we utilize the town hall. And I was thinking maybe we do the land use bylaw review as a town component, because the town wants public engagement on some, and a lot of these initiatives have synergies with social and economic spin-offs in the town. So that's sort of where we've landed so far, but we wanted to come back and basically leave it with, well, Jan and the task force to make up our minds what we want to do with it from here.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I didn't have half of that information. I just knew Rebecca and Jan had a conversation.
Well, that just happened yesterday, so.
No, thank you for that. So yeah, when Jan comes back, we'll get any other information from her. And I agree, I think we need to get through some of the survey. We need to be really targeted on what information we're hoping to achieve and be really clear on our purpose. So hopefully that'll come out in the next 2 or 3 weeks for our group. So if we're moving into new business now, last meeting, there was some talk around having an organization engagement survey. So not the survey that we're putting out right now is resident targeted to understand what their personal needs are, where are they at in terms of mental health, finances, housing, food security, like all of those needs. So we committed to going away and looking at some surveys and different things. And my incredible team, so Terry and Nicole, have worked a whole lot of hours over this past week to research different surveys from across Canada, specific to Alberta. And they've put together a huge list of questions, and it's massive. But before we brought those questions back to this group, I guess I thought it was really important that we have a conversation and like understand, what do we want to know from these organizations? What's our purpose? What are we going to do with it? And then that'll allow us to drill back the number of questions that we have, so we can present you with something that's meaningful and is going to meet the needs. So I thought I'd throw that out as a topic of conversation. I know, Susan, you brought this up last time, so I don't know if there's anything specific that you were hoping for us to ask through this survey.
Yeah, I guess just where they stand, how's their finances? Have they lost staff over it? Do they expect their staff to come back? Are they going to need help recruiting staff, volunteers, doing fundraising? Are they afraid that they're not going to be able to make it and keep going? And just where are they at? And what are clients asking for too, I guess? Are they able to give them what they need, or is there gaps in their services?
Perfect. And a lot of the questions that we found are definitely along those lines. Does anyone else want to add anything about organizations or what you're interested in learning?
Well, I sort of think that maybe some of the questions that we'll have for the organizations will change as we get results in from the survey. And as we're seeing what the community needs, then we may be looking to the organizations to see what they're then able to provide.
I agree.
And earlier, Kim, you mentioned about the how once we gather the information and we see the themes and the trends and what the needs are of the community, and we complete that scan, then it gives us an opportunity to see what areas we would look toward in terms of applying for through funds that can be available through, I think you mentioned it was it the Emergency Community Support Fund, Kim?
Yeah.
So that would give us the information we need in order to make an application for. And then once we see what those trends are, it'll also tell us which organization needs to be best supported with respect to how we apply for it, how much we ask for, and what we're asking, what we're hoping to achieve.
And with protective equipment, do they have what they need? Do they know where to get it? Or is there a way that we could source it and save the money and order it for everybody?
Yeah, and those are all really good questions, Susan. And those are also questions that are included in that. There are various questions that were covered across the province in Canada. So yeah.
So in terms of timing, for this organizational survey, do you see this as something that we would put out after we receive the results from the public, or is this a survey that you see would kind of be happening simultaneously?
I think people don't have much to do over the summer, so it'd probably be okay to have it after this survey. And maybe, like you guys were saying, use some of the material that you get back to form some of the questions.
And also, depending on what themes we see within the survey, it may allow us to tweak some of the questions we want to ask for the organizational piece.
Nope, that's absolutely perfect. So what we'll do, we do have a lot of questions. We'll start paring them down from what we've heard and bring back something. We're not in as huge of a rush because I'm assuming it'll be probably 3 weeks for us to get the results back from the participant survey, and then we can put this out over summer. So I don't see this as being a huge pressure point, but it's something that we can continue to work on over the next kind of few weeks.
Tim, is there an association or some organization that's provincial or nationwide that you can tap into for some of this stuff? Like what we utilized on the, I need an acronym for that, Economic Recovery Task Force, was that we have a tourism representative, and there's Alberta Tourism have done their own surveys, and we're kind of drawing from some of that data. Is there other surveys that are going on that you know of that, is there like a, Mental Health Canada site that has some of the stuff that they're doing on their own? And I'm not saying we don't do the organizational survey. I think that's a great initiative, but in the meantime, we can maybe fill some of the gaps that we're seeing here as we wait with some data it's maybe a little bit broader, and maybe we can highlight themes, and then maybe there's, on an advocacy front, we could say, okay, well, Ottawa has said this, Edmonton's saying this, and then we're seeing it in Cochrane. Well, we really need to get on board with this.
There are a whole variety of different surveys. Mental health does have a survey out. Red Cross, or not Red Cross, United Way has been surveying organizations. They actually did a really magnificent job. Calgary and Area United Way, they surveyed organizations back in March, just looking at what are the top needs that you're seeing, what does that look like? And they're just doing another survey right now. So they'll have some comparative results between what were organizations seeing when the pandemic first hit versus what are organizations seeing now. So we definitely can grab some of that data and look at the trends that are happening. For sure, we could look at bringing that back next meeting. I just have the initial data from United Way, but could bring back some of the mental health. There has been studies on, there's been a whole variety increase in drinking and drug use throughout COVID, and what does that look like? So there's lots of small studies that we could definitely look at. Trends, they would be either nationally or Alberta, so not specific to our area necessarily, but if people are interested, we could definitely fan that out and send it out in an email for people.
Jeff, were you speaking to resources as well as just not just the questions, but the answers?
Well, I mean, I think it would give us some early indicators on what we may see in our own survey, and then maybe we can preempt some of the strategies about how we want to react. But also, yeah, I mean, I think one of the next things on the agenda is grant funding, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd be super interested to hear, if there's avenues of finances that we could draw on that are grants or whatever, because we've looked at a trend that's maybe occurring somewhere else in the country that we can piggyback on and say, yeah, we have that problem here too. And maybe we get $10,000 or $100,000. It'd be great. I think for everything. And then just general knowledge. It was in like that stat I spewed out earlier from the 50% of residents don't feel safe having other residents or tourists visit your community came from an Alberta tourism survey. So yes, it's 2 weeks ago, but it is showing what people's fears are, and then we can kind of work, if you know that, then you maybe have that in your back pocket as you start to formulate responses to that.
Absolutely. That's actually a great segue into the next area, which is grant opportunities. So thanks, Jeff. It's like you read the agenda almost, right? So one of the areas that I wanted to explore with this group is, what is our role in terms of grant dollars? What does that look like for us? Right in our terms of reference, we are tasked with assessing funding needs and working with other orders of government on funding supports required for town and partner services. So right now there is a lot of money out there. Like there's a lot of different pots of money that are available through a whole variety of different sources. And the survey that we did put out to the public is going to be absolutely critical for us to know the needs of our community, be able to tap into these resources. But I guess what I wanted to bring to this group is just have a conversation around, what does it look like? Because I see there's almost two different directions that we could take as a task force. So one, we could be more of a resource, that portal of information. We're already starting to do this at FCSS, but identify the different grant opportunities, how much is available, when are the deadlines, who is this targeted for, and we could create a portal on our website that agencies could access and come look and see all the different grants that are available. So almost creating just this repository of information. I also think that there may be some opportunity for us to do things different and not just be a portal, but maybe exploring, is there a way that we could apply for some large dollars as the Social Recovery Task Force? And our job would be to have agencies apply. We could provide grant dollars to different agencies because we're going to know the needs, right? Through the survey, we're going to be able to assess. And and see that. So I see us as going maybe two different directions. We could either be like a repository and we could share resources and information, or we could potentially be the grant holder and distribute grants to different agencies, or we could do a combination of both, right? But I wanted to throw that out to see what people think.
I like the combination of both. And you're flexible. You can go in either direction when the resources hit you.
Yeah, I think something like that allows for the most benefit for the community. And at the end of the day, I think from this task force, we want to be able to provide something to the community and assist them. And that having to be able to having both those streams seems like it would get us there.
Yeah, I would agree, because then we know the needs, right? And
Mhm.
there where we can allocate the funds where we believe is the greater need of everybody.
Yeah, I agree. A hybrid, it does allow us to be nimble and react either way. But I do have to admit the door number 2, the being the grant provider and accessing, if we were successful in garnering a large sum of money from somewhere, I think that would be a huge win for this group and really be impactful to a lot of people. And I get excited about that. I think that's really, the reason for our existence is to make true, meaningful change and, in people's lives. It's too bad that sometimes it's always money that it comes down to doing that with, but I think having a hybrid of suggestions and recommendations to council around some of the soft things that we could do as a community, maybe some policy changes, and this is where we're kind of heading with the other task force too, is that maybe it was the town organization needs to be easy to deal with right now. I mean, and that's one action I think that works on both the social side and the economic side, that if you're applying for something, whether it be a dog license or a business license, the town needs to be, and I'm not saying we're not, but if there's some barriers there that make it clunky for people and frustrating, that we need to get rid of those right now. At any time that it's more opportune to make people's lives easier, it's now. So those are some of the soft things, but if there's like a organization, say Helping Hands, and I just picked a name, needs help for something, yeah, and they need $10,000. Well, and this group is able to do that. I mean, that would be unbelievable. Like council's talking on Monday about, Susan, you're going to get the agenda later this afternoon, so I don't mean to preempt things, but we're talking about the community grant and how we're allocating funds. So council has a budget of $60,000 and people apply, and there's all these criteria and policies, and it has to be 50% of your operating costs and $2,500 maximum. And a lot of people fall through the cracks that have great initiatives and need finances. So if this group could be that safety net underneath that's providing help for all those people that are falling through the cracks, it just, like I said, it'd be so awesome to do that. Door number 1 and door number 2.
Pretty high expectations.
I like both options as well. I'm excited about seeing what this survey will show and what needs people identify that's specific to them, and again where it's going to fall within which group. I'm really excited about having the grant money available. I'm just wondering who would disperse the funds and how would that happen, Kim?
So that we need to figure out some work. So there is a fund, it's called the Community Emergency Support Fund. It's federal government dollars. I believe there's 350 million, not designated just for Cochrane. This would be across the country. But we've done a little bit of research into it. It does look like it is possible to do this. So to have a group actually apply for a large amount of money and be able to dole it out. From what I've seen, it's primarily foundations that are applying. So different foundations throughout Alberta have applied for dollars, and that would allow them to receive applications and be able to kind of sublet that money out to different organizations. We do have, I still need to do some research. There is a Cochrane Foundation that exists. I don't know enough about it. I know that they're not an independent group and they're tethered to Calgary. Susan, you might be able to speak.
They're actually independent. They've been around Cochrane for 20 some years, and they give out the interest on some money that they received every year, about 50, 60,000. But if they had more money, they could give out more money, because I think they have a good way of vetting the different programs.
And they're not directly linked to the Calgary Foundation?
Well, they have some link, but they're their own nonprofit. They're the Cochrane Foundation. And there's the Calgary Foundation, and they have some linkages and some similarities, but they are separate. Joanne Churchill sat on it. I think she still does.
Does she? So
I go to their dinner every year. I think it's mostly Cochrane-based people that are making the decisions too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm forgetting the name of the president right now. I'll think of it.
Robin Harvey, wasn't it? Tim's her son, yeah.
But I think he's president now.
Is he?
See, we got there together.
we can look that up. So that could be one option, is to have the Cochrane Foundation apply for a large amount of dollars, and then they would assume that responsibility of taking in those grant applications and doling out the funds. If it's something that the task force itself would like to have a part in, I don't know what that would look like. If we want to explore ways that we as a task force could apply for dollars and see if we have that ability to do that, or if you're happy to for me to approach Cochrane Foundation and see. Open to suggestions.
It would be nice to have some control over it, since we're the ones gathering the info and we are going to have the information on who needs the help. But different times, it depends on the rules of the grant funding. But if the town can hold it, then you guys could look after it, or the Active Vets have held money for us if it has to be a nonprofit society.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure what the rules were around that, so I will do a little bit more research. I don't know if the town of Cochrane can do it, or if we'd have to look out kind of to members of our task force and see if there's another organization that could be that holder. One of my, because I jump ahead in my thoughts, and I've been thinking about this for a little while, would Rotary Club, Natalia, would that be a possibility or something that the Rotary would be able to do?
I think so. I was just thinking that as you were speaking that it could definitely be a possibility. So I could look into that.
Okay, that would be awesome. And I agree, I didn't want to, I knew you'd come out and say it, Susan, if I just left it open. I didn't want to talk about that control piece, but I get it. Like, we, as the task force, we're going to be putting out the survey, identifying those themes, knowing the needs, and being able to make sure those funds are distributed in a way that's going to meet those needs. So absolutely. So Natalia, if you take that away to Rotary and maybe do a little bit of work and see if that's a possibility. And I can do some research as well on the Cochrane Foundation and see if they have applied or what that looks like, if they have intentions of applying.
Just a note about the Cochrane Foundation too. They've strictly funded one-time costs for infrastructure. They haven't funded grants for staffing or ongoing programming. So they might not be set up to totally do what we'd be looking for, but it's worth talking to them.
Yeah, I'll reach out. Part of my concern, I really like this. I like the approach of Cochrane applying for one large chunk of money rather than, because even if you look around like our virtual room, all of our organizations will need some support. And I don't think, like, if we're all applying, we're competing against each other for this pot of dollars. Whereas if we're coming in as one organization and working in partnership with a variety of groups, it's not a competition. So this is really exciting. This is exactly what I hoped you guys would say. So it's perfect.
The Rotary idea as well, because it allows us to pivot. Like we can pivot in the direction as things change, because there's a trend can surface at any 6 weeks after the other one. So it's a lot better that way.
Yeah. Other things too that we'll have to keep in mind just in terms of the task force as well is if we apply for this Community Emergency Support Fund, funding does go, funds have to be spent by March 31st, 2021, which would mean right now our Social Recovery Task Force terms of reference is until the end of this year. So I think I would propose, if we're successful and this is the route that we're going, that we would extend until at least the end of June 2021 and remain together as a team so we could dole out grants, make those funding decisions, and then also take in those reports and do that report back to the government on the funding. So just something to keep in mind as well that we'll have to discuss in the future if we're successful. Awesome. Well, that's kind of the end of all the formal stuff. We'll move into roundtable. Does anybody have anything that they want to share? Who wants to start? One at a time, you guys, one at a time. Shara, is there anything you want to share from Helping Hands?
As I quickly mentioned, we are moving towards mini community food drives over the next 5-6 months. And that's to continue to support the food bank while not overwhelming them and continuing to engage our community and our neighborhoods. So each neighborhood will be having a food drive, making sure that we're not having over 50 people and maintaining our distance, but and then we're figuring out sorting locations. I can add the dates, but the first one is Glen Eagles and the east end of Cochrane, and that's on June 13th. And then on June 27th, we're having one in West Terrace and West Valley.
That's such a great idea. And do you have, with Jen not being here, is the food bank doing okay for their stock of food right now?
They're doing really well, and Springbank is actually doing a mini community food drive this weekend as well as the drive-in movie. So we are organizing some sorting on Monday for the food drive. So some of our volunteers will be helping out with that.
Awesome. Thanks, Shara. Cindy.
Hi, thanks, Shara. The Big Hill Haven, we have a big ride for her event this Saturday, put on by Royal LePage, and all the funds will be donated to Big Hill Haven. So we're capping at 50 riders. We have 20 at the moment. We were aiming for 5,000. We have raised about 4,000 so far. So we're really looking forward to the ride for her that we will continue doing every year as well. So I'm excited to see what this looks like after Saturday. And we will be launching the phone campaign that we're collecting phones with chargers. And that will be, the drop box will be at Cochrane Floors and More with Jackie. And that will almost be ready to be launched definitely by June 15th with the social media presence. And our outreach worker, Patty, will hand out the phones to women in need, women fleeing, so that they at least have a phone that they can dial 911. We also looked into, I talked to Patty about after doing some research on the phone campaign, that will be kind of fluid and changing depending on the needs and what happens, you know, with the ongoing COVID, because we're expecting a surge in phone calls and support. A domestic violence group in the Yukon had actually approached Bell or Telus, and the big company gifted 4 months phone line service, which was amazing, or phone service. So that may be something we'll add to the phones depending on the need that comes up. And anyone that wants to come out for the ride for her, just check online. I think it's going to be exciting.
Great, thanks, Cindy. Have you noticed if like your call volume's increasing now, or are you staying at a pretty manageable rate? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, this whole technology, they are starting to increase. We are expecting 35 to 55% increase as the COVID goes on, right? Some provinces are experiencing up to 75% increase. So it just is dependent on mental health, isolation, the financial. I mean, so many factors go into why the calls have gone up. I have seen an increased presence of domestic violence coming into the drop-in center just as of late. Not that it didn't happen before, but definitely CPS is dropping off people fleeing domestic violence more lately.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Anybody else have updates they want to provide?
I just wanted to mention the library. They're starting to do their curbside service and looking at reopening, but maybe there's a way to put the survey on their website or have it dropped off of library books.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thanks, Susan. Natalia, you had your hand up too.
Yes, so the Rotary Club, Alex just told me that he's offering, if we need vehicles for any reason for the social COVID team, that for June or July, he's willing to offer some vehicles if needed. And the Young Professionals group of the Rotary Club that's putting on the movie, they are talking about maybe doing another one in July. So we could do some advertising there if we have another survey or anything else too. We could bring that up as well.
Perfect. And sorry, can you talk a little bit more about the vehicles, Natalia?
Yeah, Alex just said that Toyota would offer vehicles if needed to do any volunteering work. He just wanted to put that out there. He hasn't really said too much detail. He just said for June or July, if any vehicles are needed, that we could use some as well.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Alex did make that same offer to the Economic Recovery Task Force. I think that's such a nice gesture. I wonder if we shouldn't, as a group, send a thank you just to, you know, whether we utilize the vehicles or not, just the fact that he would do that, I think speaks volumes of the type of person he is and the business that they have there. I don't know what anyone else thinks, but or I'd be happy to write a letter from my office in that regards. I just think it's just such a nice thing to offer.
Because you offered it to both groups, maybe it would be best coming from your office.
This is a make work project for me.
Rebecca would help you out.
Thanks, Jeff, for that.
What a great idea.
No, that is such a generous, generous offer. Who else does anyone else have updates? Lauren, do you have any? Is anyone using the after hours line, Lauren?
We still haven't got any calls on the after hours line. The app is being used and we've seen the events go up on it another 1,000 from last week. So that's clicks, downloads, shares. Our users are just, last time I looked, I think it was just under 400 users that have come on. So I think as an organization, we need to, we still need to work on promoting that a bit more. So, but it looks like it's being used, just not the after hours line yet.
All right, we'll have to work on getting that messaging out there too. Terry, do you have any updates from your end?
Nothing to add to what I've already referred to. So far, so good. Calls are increasing, absolutely. More demand from, families, more parent struggles, child struggles, and some are doing better. So it's a mix.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, Susan?
It reminds me when we were looking at the questions, there was like what has been bad for you, but weren't we going to add a question about what's improved for you in your life during COVID?
That's right before it. Yeah.
Yeah, did I miss it?
Still on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Jack, do you have any updates?
Well, I try not to hog too much time because I find myself speaking a lot, but it's come up a couple of times today. I don't really have an update. I mean, there's so much on the go. It's, I think most people are tuned in with what the province is doing. We're hoping this week they announce stage 2 will, come sooner than what they expected. I think they were saying originally June 19th, and now that is looking like it might be the 12th or even sooner. So the only outcome from that I think we need to be aware of as a task force is that, and it's really the obvious that everybody here is, I'm sure, aware of, but that's that things continue to change, and then the needs that come out of those changes change as well. And that's really been the struggle, I think, from our community, like from the town of Cochrane's perspective. It's continuing to try to close things down at the beginning, follow guidelines, and then it seemed like hourly at that point. And then as things start to reopen and relaunch, there's this expectation and push from the community in some areas on both sides to stay closed or to open faster. And it's been very hard to navigate through that and keep everybody happy, which is our goal, but really that's not possible. So we're spraying dandelions now, and I've got like 100 calls about that already, but it's, I think really what we need to be aware of, and it's something I thought of yesterday in the other task force, was that we're responding to things as we see them today, but that may not be what ends up being needed, because that will change before we can actually respond to it. So we need to be, if we can, looking long term. And I liked what Terry said earlier about, things change, the future, we're not sure about it. So it's really just hey, let's keep our eyes on the horizon to make sure that when we see something coming, that we're nimble enough, and I think confident enough to be able to take risks and be wrong potentially, but at least act. I think right now what I'm seeing across the community is people are frozen with fear and uncertainty and not willing to make a choice because we're worried that it's going to be wrong or that things might change. And I think here at this task force and as a council, I'm hoping that we can, do things, make some changes. And yep, you know what, we're not going to be 100% right all the time, but at least we're trying and we're doing something. Because I think getting caught and frozen in fear means we'll not do anything, and then we might as well. And I'm not suggesting that's what this group's doing, but it's like basically I'm saying let's just throw caution to the wind somewhat. And legislative services will keep us in the box. They did that with me this morning again. It's the rules. You have to stay in here. I'm like, okay, well, how do we change those? So, but I think we're going to have to be innovative, and we're going to have to find some things. I really am excited about that, the grant thing, as I ranted at length on before, but I'm so excited about what we can do here as a group, and listening to you guys every week has been, humbling. And I just thank you all for being here and doing this work. It's so important right now. And I think whether we know it or not, I think there's a great amount of people that are watching for us to both fail and succeed. So let's succeed.
Great, thank you.
Is that an update or just a rant? I'm sorry. I need the Rick Mercer graffiti wall in the background.
I love that Pledge Services tried to put you in a box, Jeff. So.
Well, I said to Jaylene, I've got this bubble coming out of here, and she's like, there, it's gone.
I know, I absolutely agree. I think if we can move forward with the grant idea, that is going to allow us to be nimble, to respond, to pivot and change and meet different needs kind of at the drop of a hat, because we will have some of that control. And if we start to see domestic violence rising, then we can put our money and resources there. Whereas, I think it will allow us with just greater flexibility and control over kind of the needs of our community and making sure that we're meeting them. So we'll go away, we'll do our homework, and hopefully next week we come back and have some strategies and ideas on how we move forward. I also I do want to move fairly quickly on the grant as well, if this is something that we're choosing to pursue, because organizations are applying. And I know 350 million sounds like a lot, but this grant has been out for a while, and I want to make sure that we don't spend too long thinking about it, and that we put something forward. So we'll do research and we'll come back. Nicole, I missed you. Do you have anything that you want to add, hun? No. All right. On that note, does anybody have anything extra before we close off 13 minutes early today?
Just thank you for all your hard work on this. It's nice to see things moving forward so fast.
Yeah, actually, I can't take any credit for it. I have some really amazing people around me, two of them which are in this room that are doing a lot of that background work. But we did sit down and yes, look at the terms of reference. Just this past week, we had a meeting, and we'll go through it next week, and I'll show you guys how great we are as a task force. But literally, we're following the task force, what we're set out to be doing, and we're already ticking things off. And this is meeting number 3. So super powerful group. And I think a lot of exciting things are to come. So Excellent. Well, have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you all next Thursday at 1 p.m.
See
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.